The word homeless is not something that you can just advertise it simply, because, I don't know, I mean, homeless is not just someone that's got no place to stay, but it's not even a blanket to cover himself.
Far in the distance, there's a promise. It seems far in the distance. I put it on the altar, though it was mine. I put it on the altar. There's a greater city we have not seen. We're all waiting in the in-between. We're all seeking our homeland. We're all seeking our homeland. We're all seeking our homeland. We're all seeking our homeland.
I remember coming out of the centre and seeing this beautiful South African mother, followed by 6 children who were magnificently beautiful with beautiful eyes. They had just come off a plane because of a significant domestic violence situation and had nowhere to go. They just found themselves on a plane, landed in Adelaide, had nowhere to go, didn't know what to do. And someone said, knock on a door at Hutt Street. Sorry. But those instances where it can make such an impact. I could go on, but I'll just get emotional.
You've said you're still upon us. Your spirit lives inside us as a guarantee.
Maybe in the past I didn't value myself as, or my family, in the sense of like what I had, what I was able to get. Sometimes it's even the smallest things. They're more valuable than anything else. To me, it's a lot. Sorry. To me, it means a lot. I could not have a meal sometimes, but I can walk into Hutt St Centre and they can offer it to me without a second thought, without a hesitation. There's others out there that are suffering even much worse than I am.
Hutt Street is a work of the Daughters of Charity, and we're a Catholic order of sisters. And the very buildings we're in are owned by the Archdiocese. The then Catholic Archbishop of Adelaide, Matthew Beervich, invited Daughters of Charity to come to Adelaide to particularly assist what he would say is the eastern part of his diocese, this east end of Adelaide.
Well, there she lies, Adelaide. Just the right size for a city, neither too big for comfort nor too small for a thriving capital.
So there were children and sacramental programs, there were really poor families, people living in difficult situations. There were a lot of boarding houses in this area, this street, and a lot of those boarding houses were not very good, but a lot of them were housing veterans from the war, but the situation was grim.
From what they went through during the war, many men will never fully recover. The damage cannot be undone. Treat them with care.
70 years ago, three sisters from the Daughters of Charity came here and started giving out cans of tea and sandwiches in wax paper out through a window at the back lane. To this day, we still give out those hot meals here, and we still support the most vulnerable members of our community.
It was quite a simple service. It was you have a person in front of you with a need, and you met that need, be it, as I say, a meal or, you know, I've seen photos of sisters stirring really big soup pots, but it probably was also about like sitting and talking to them, providing recreational activities for them, like playing pool or something. And it was using volunteers to do that. But I think that personal contact, that stuff about relationship, and I think that was critical. At the beginning, there were probably no women. It was men coming for support. And then that probably changed later.
If one female did want lunch, she was segregated off into a corner. Clientele was a lot older, and what I would classify as mostly happy drunks.
It wasn't really through to about the 80s when we started to have paid staff. So up until, from the founding till about the 80s, it was the sisters and the volunteers.
I have been here 43 years. I worked in the clothing section all those years ago. At that particular time, we lived at Elizabeth, and one of my dear friends at Elizabeth said her sister-in-law was a volunteer at Hutt Street in the city. I had an interview with Sister Pauline, who was the administrator then.
I'm over 70, but it's been there as long as I can remember. And I do remember we came into there once with Mother Carmel Burke to do some work and help in the kitchens and things. So yes, way back, 65 years ago or whatever it was. I guess it was quite confrontational because I had a comfortable lifestyle. And one of the things we did that day we visited was to bring food and stuff like that. So yeah.
It's interesting because when I first started, my first boss was a daughter of charity, and I was privileged to work with several daughters of charity. And the first words she said to me were, "We walk alongside our clients here." And I didn't really understand what that meant. But as time went on and I answered the door and I got to meet the clients and heard their stories and actually saw things happening out the front, I then realised what it actually meant, that you walk alongside people when they're going through the most horrible time in their lives. And we couldn't even imagine it. So, yeah, I think that's what I've learnt here for sure, yeah.
The thing that I learnt from the clients was they had little to nothing, but they never didn't share. Like if someone needed a smoke or, you know, clean socks and the up shop wasn't open, their generosity towards each other was just amazing. You know, they just were there for each other, and just they were all in the same boat and they supported each other. And there was nothing more, I don't know the word, but, you know, we lost clients that died in the parklands or they passed through sickness or whatever. They felt that grief and they supported each other, and you knew that although they were an individual person living on the street, but coming here gave them that sense that they could support each other. And it was really really hard when a client passed away. Everyone felt it, but especially the guys and women that were doing it tough. Yeah. So the support and the generosity and the camaraderie was just, you know, it was just there. It wasn't, they weren't traveling alone.
I mean, I probably shouldn't say this. There were times when the Daughters of Charity would even offer a packet of cigarettes to a client who came to the door upset. I mean, you can't do that now, but 20 years ago you could. And that made a difference. Like, that person had a connection with the sister here, and they would come back, and that was their way of getting the client in so we could help them in other ways. So a cigarette actually got that person here and helped them. So those little things are incredibly important. Yeah, definitely. Yep. Mm.
I knew nothing of Hutt St Centre at all, so I thought I'll go down and have a look, and it was this, I guess, an adventure, what I would say, into a bold new frontier in some ways. Come into Hutt Street and you see a whole different world that you've never actually seen before, and it was one of those things when I walked in and I started working as a student that it actually felt right and it felt like it was the correct fit. Well, I started here in 1993, but I did my student placement in 1992, so theoretically I was here in 1992 and I did get paid a little bit in that period. And then I was a social worker for 10 years, and then working at Hutt Street was it wasn't just a passion, it wasn't just a job. It's a lot more than that. It's quite emotional as well in some ways. So.
My role was the first cook to be employed at Hutt Street back in 1994. The demand for a change in the quality of meals and things like that was kind of being looked at by the board, and they decided they needed to employ a cook. So I was very lucky to get the position.
Peeling the carrots. After this we might get onions.
Very basic, meatloaf, fish and chips, tuna mornay, beef schnitzel, lemon pepper chicken, you know, just everyday food. But it was come here and have our menu, or beg for money, or go to Central Market and go through the waste products at the end of the day. You know, they'd look for fresh food, and they'd go to Fred's van at night time.
The onions were from the food bank, the capsicums were from Second Bite, the celery was from the Second Bite.
It's wonderful to get a hot meal at the middle of the day, as I was brought up on a farm, and hot meals were always treasured, especially at lunch, and sharing was always a great time for that extra hot meal.
One guy came up one day and he said to me, "You make the best sauces and gravies. If you served an old shoe, if it had a gravy or a sauce, I'd eat that too." So, you know, they were all the rewards that I got on a daily basis. I also got a bit of abuse, but I used to tell them compliments weren't going to get them another serve of meal or whatever. But, you know, I loved the banter. And once the guys got to know me, it was just lovely. Yeah. We had a couple of social workers. We had shower and washing facilities, and we had the nurse, and that was about all that was happening for the clients back then. For me, as a person who was totally oblivious to homelessness because it hadn't really spread out to the suburbs in those days, it was a real shock and a wake-up call to know that there were people living in the parklands and relying on this service to survive and come in and have their needs met by showers and doing the washing and having sustenance here. So that was my biggest take on Hutt Street when I started here.
It's just incredible, it really is. And to know that the clients can have breakfast and lunch here and they don't have to go hungry. And now we always have a lot of produce on the trolley afterwards that they can take home. It's just great that homelessness is terrible, but if they can be nourished, it's a tiny piece of the battle. But something needs to be done about the homelessness, of course, and that's another story.
My budget when I started was $52,000 for the year, and they were producing, or we were serving 55,000 people, breakfast and lunch. My first manager, a dear lady, she told me, we're here to feed them, not fatten them.
Oh, look, I think the staff group was 7 or 8. Yeah, it was very raw, nowhere near the services that Hutt St Centre has now. You know, I always say I housed more people than I had hot dinners, so that was always quite thrilling to get a property for some of our group. And
no one missed out on anything, and I never overspent my budget either. So that was, you know, something I was proud of, because that money could go somewhere else then in the service.
Yeah, I was there for 10 years, loved doing that social work area, and then the Daughters of Charity said, we'd like you to become the CE, the first layperson to be a CE, and had my own views on where we could probably take Hutt Street. The daughters were were brilliant in their just giving Hutt Street that sort of the charism of their brand and who they were, and that spirit and spirituality that they bring. I just thought we could probably professionalise some areas of the operations.
Don't know that I can remember that far back. The day centre was nothing like this. It was much smaller. This area wasn't here. The kitchen was much more basic. The equipment wasn't as good. And yes, it was just much smaller and weren't nearly as many clients then. And they've just exploded over the last few years, unfortunately.
I think the wheel started turning in 2003 when we wanted to renovate the admin building and do, you know, expand our services and just start putting Hutt Street on the map.
It was always a place of great welcoming, and you know, and you were welcomed unconditionally. You know, you were cared for unreservedly. You know, you were given respect, no matter who you were, and you know, the sense of care and the sense of passion and relentlessness has been here ever since then.
The band, they fire up every Tuesday afternoon. We've had some really talented musos here over the years, and the guys in the band are really committed. They played at the Walker Mile, they played out the front. It's a great gig for everyone to get together.
And Ian Cox took over as CEO in the early 2000s, and his vision for Hutt Street for the clients was so broad that we couldn't do it without outside help for funding and whatever else. So we employed a fundraising person, and we started an appeal to do the renovations that we needed to do.
It went from providing just a meal centre to, you know, meals and showers and lockers, and then a full range of complementary health-related and social-related services. And it became almost a one-stop shop for anyone who was either homeless or marginalised or having, you know, severe impairments and things like that. It was a great, wonderful opportunity, and the amount of services that came along were great. The case management structure changed. The volunteers became so much more, and they were always amazing and always fantastic. The staff was sensational in terms of their commitments and love and their desire to see the outcomes for all the clients, and who, you know, we treated as family rather than just simply clients. But at the same time, the wonderful values that started the place still remained all the way through. And I think that was one of the beauties about Hutt St Centre, is that it always was always a very strong values-based organisation.
We are trying to walk 60,000 miles collectively for the 6,000 people living with homelessness in South Australia currently. It's a great cause, so get on board.
It's just amazing. The people of Adelaide, the way they turn out for the Hutt St Centre, it blows your mind. That the energy today, the amount of people who got up before dawn in the fog and have basically run here from Victoria Park. It's just been beautiful. I've loved being a part of it.
And there's that moment, I think, you have, say, when the alarm goes off and it's cold and you think, oh, but then you've got to just go, hang on, people are outside sleeping rough in these conditions. What we're going through for just this is absolutely nothing. So to be able to do it together is great.
You realise there's people who've been out like every night in winter, and to do this is such a tiny thing but can make a big difference, and I think that's what everyone's here for today.
Look, we achieved a lot, I think. I'm probably a little bit reasonably humble in many ways, but look, one of the things is for our works to grow, and I say our works because I still see myself as part of this organisation, albeit have left it many years ago. We weren't going to grow if we didn't raise our income base. So, yeah, wanted to start up a foundation, which was going to be our fundraising arm. Yeah. Really proud that that's been a major cornerstone of some of the growth of Hutt Street.
And it's important to run and to grow the services and to increase the range of services, and to be able to build the centre, and all of that requires funding. And while government gives you some, you can't be reliant on that. You have to be self-reliant and self-responsible. And to be able to have a foundation that helps deliver that is fantastic.
When I came here, our way of raising funds was a fete, and alongside the fete we ran a raffle where the prize was $2,000, and the fete would raise about $15,000, and so that was the only kind of income yearly, apart from bequests that we would get from people.
There was a touch football tournament that ran for a number of years, and now we have the walk a mile and the shoes event that occurs. We have the business lunches that are just ever so successful. It's great, and the whole beauty about the fundraising here, it's always been fun, and everybody loves to be a part of it, not only for the outcomes that it achieves, but the fact that it enables a great sense of fun, a great sense of networking, a great sense of relationships.
Walk a mile. That started out in 2009. It was just a conversation between a fundraising manager and a few of the, mainly one of the original appeals committee members that put an idea together, and it was just formed from there.
We're expecting about 2,000 people, so the energy's pumping, and that's without coffee. So I'm just excited to get into the mile and have a bit of fun and try and raise some awareness and try and make a bit of noise through the city to really rally the troops together.
That's how Walk a Mile originally started, walking 1 mile in the shoes of someone that has nothing, is homeless.
I think that's the
most powerful thing about it. I mean, there's a lot more people here this year than there was last year as we start to rebuild this event post-COVID, and it's, I don't know, it speaks to the warmth and generosity of South Australians, even during, you know, what are difficult economic times for many people.
So I started here 5 years ago at the start of the year 2020, after Ian Cox, who had been here in the job as the CEO for some 16 years. It was a very interesting time, particularly as we entered the COVID era. And the centre had been long planning a major renovation. It was a $3 million redevelopment. And one of my first things when I came in is said, why aren't we doing it? And there was a lot of issues around neighbours and potential legal claims, and my approach was, well, we're never going to know unless we try it. And so we launched the redevelopment. That was in April 2020, and as we know, COVID started in March 2020, which made for an interesting series of events and time. So we worked through COVID. And we're very proud to say we never missed a meal in the whole COVID time. So we continued to support a very traumatised clientele through a redevelopment and through a global pandemic.
Boxes of kindness delivered to those who need them most, courtesy of our frontline heroes. Like many charities, the Hutt St Centre's seen demand surge for its services.
It was a hugely demanding time. You know, almost overnight, half our volunteers couldn't come in because they were in that older age group. But for the clients, it was extremely traumatic. And our biggest initial problem with COVID was educating them what COVID was, why they had to wear a mask and why they had to take precautions. And then as we proceeded, you know, why they needed to be tested and why they needed to be vaccinated against it. All in that environment when they're going through lockdowns out on the street. And I think one of the best examples of the impact of COVID was when the state and local government cancelled the free City Connector buses in the city. That's the main means by which our clients get around. That's how they get to their dental appointments and housing appointments and job interviews. And we had to plead on a number of occasions with the government to reinstate that bus service. But what was traumatic is that because there wasn't a way for them to move around by a bus, they walked the streets and they were literally abused by people who accused them of spreading the pandemic and that they shouldn't be on the streets. And so dealing with the trauma that the clients experienced through COVID was quite a demanding time. But one, with the staff who were just compassionate and caring and volunteers, we were able to get through. I've had a client, I went and spoke to him one day and I said, is there anything I can do for you? And he said, no, look, just thank you for coming and having a chat with me. I haven't spoken to an adult for 10 days. And out on the street, they get judged. And no one goes up and talks to them. When they come here, they are actually cared for. People want to help them. We know how to start that conversation without being seen to judge them. And we know when we have the resources that when they ask for something, we can generally get it for them.
It's the smallest of things that means a lot to them, and it's that's when it's rewarding for ourselves to be able to provide those services to them, which is fully appreciated.
What quickly followed the COVID pandemic and the redevelopment was that the government initiated a major reorganisation of the homelessness sector in South Australia that created alliances. That was a very strenuous tendering process that we participated in. But honestly, at the end of it, we knew whoever won the tender, they would need us to be part of their alliance. So joining the winning alliance was a big step and has probably been an improvement for the homelessness sector in South Australia. It's allowed us to continue to case manage our clients, which is so important. But what we've found through the Aspire program is that just housing a person doesn't end their homelessness.
The Aspire program is a really intensive case management service that engages with people with a lot of contact with SA Health, a lot of contact with South Australian Department for Correctional Services, but also those clients who've experienced a lot of emergency accommodation nights.
I was doing it hard. I was sleeping in the sand dunes. I had a broken leg. So you try walking around and surviving on the street, sleeping in the sand dunes with a broken leg. It's not fun. You're a target, you're vulnerable.
Unlike many other case management services, both provided here at Hutt St Centre, but also more broadly within the homelessness sector, we provide in Aspire case management for up to 3 years duration. Less if a person doesn't want it, but certainly a maximum of 3 years. And that longevity of support means we're really able to engage well with a person at a therapeutic level, but also in a way to address their long-term systemic issues that they present with.
The home was the foundation to it all, so I don't think we could have, if we even tried to get a job and I didn't have the home, I don't think it would have really worked because I didn't have the stability of somewhere to stay and all that to deal with. There was actually a lot of damage done from being on the street for a few years though, and we couldn't actually really recognise that until I had the accommodation and a stable place to live. So we actually were trying to juggle a lot of stuff and deal with a lot.
I think what we're so unique with is that there's so many barriers and challenges for a lot of those that are quite vulnerable and experiencing homelessness to get any healthcare they need, housing that they need, financial support that they need. So we actually have a lot of that on site. So we kind of cut down those barriers that they don't need to, because the majority have their whole life in a trolley, for example. They can't just jump on a bus to go to an appointment.
And even those that are sleeping rough, we have access to lockers. So we're expanding the need and responding to the locker availability for those that are sleeping rough. So at least they can leave something that's sentimental value to them in the locker, and they know that it's safe for when they come in the next day.
With the demography changing, we've set up programs just for women. Once a month we close the centre down for an afternoon to have a safe place where women can come and talk about issues that are pertinent to women. Of course, as soon as we set that up, the men said they wanted one too. So we also have once a month we close the centre down to allow the men to talk about men's issues.
A lot of the guys in there will sort of say, look, we'd be lost without you. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you guys. And sometimes, if we've been away for a week or a few days, like, oh, where have you been? Where have you been? I didn't see you last week. So I think it's just building that rapport, them being comfortable and feeling safe in the centre, and just sometimes I'll just say, oh, can I just come and have a chat? Can I just have a chat about a few things?
It's the smallest of things, and clearly I'm an Adelaide Crows fan, so it's the smallest of things when you give someone a Port Power hat. Now, I don't understand the happiness, but they're happy. So they do. But it's the smallest of things that make a difference, or you get a Christmas card, or they might write a poem for you. It's those, or they'll pop into the office and say, can I have a chat with you today, or have you got any chocolates, Mum? And it's the little things that make a difference. So we progressed them on the journey towards homefulness, but it's what we can do for them in the centre that they appreciate, and that this is the most rewarding job I've ever done, let me tell you. Huge difference.
I love the Creative Hub room. It's a way of expressing the moods that you can represent in so many different ways of being artistic. It's a place where I can come and be creative and express my artworks in so many different ways and genres.
Around that, what it creates is a community, a sense of community, that they feel that they're part of a community and they're supported in that community, and that we are genuinely trying to help them on that journey to homefulness. And that part of that journey is being linked to a community and then feeling that you're contributing back to that community at a later time. So it's more than just information, it's about generating a community.
It's helped me with ID. It's referred me to other places like, other organisations like housing. Housing was one of them, and ID and street soccer. And yeah, I've been nominated this year to go to Seoul for the Big Issue Homeless World Cup.
Michael Wilson there, who's keen off the sidelines. There's Cambodia with the shot though, it's a shot not troubling the goalkeeper.
I look forward to the next day. I know that tomorrow I'm going to be here in the morning.
And that's what Hutt Street is, it's family, isn't it?
Really. To feel welcome, because, and it's just, there's no I in team, we're all in this together.
Absolutely love everything about the Hutt St Centre. To walk in there, the people involved, the volunteers, I'm just in awe of them. It's such a beautiful organisation. I did a talk to a group of women clients, and to see them all having lunch, feeling so safe. The Hutt St Centre is their safe space, and it's just an honour to be an ambassador.
TikTok biscuits?
Yeah, that's good. Some of these?
Yeah. Any fruit? Would you like some apple and orange?
Orange.
Orange? Sure. For your drink? No?
From day one, this place only existed with volunteers, really. You know, people think about the sisters, and yes, that was important, but it was the volunteers. So, you know, I think some people have been volunteers for a long time. Some people just come in and, you know, do Angel for a day. But I think they've all been touched and their lives have been changed by the experience of volunteering at Hutt Street. You know, the deeper motivations are really, they're all probably very varied, you know, but for some it's just their heart has been touched by seeing people on the streets living in that way. Their hearts have been touched maybe out of their own faith experience, you know. It's really their choice, you know. They're giving of their time freely, generously, and to make a difference.
I'm on my own now. My husband died 6 years ago, and this to me makes me feel I'm doing something useful. It's easy to fill one's day at my age. I'm going to be 80 next year. It's easy to fill one's day, but to feel useful isn't always so easy. And I think all the volunteers that I work with on a Wednesday, we all feel much the same. You know, we feel rewarded by being here.
Since they've done the renovations, they didn't include the op shop. So I had to eat my words and go in the kitchen. And it is a very lovely place to work, just the same.
The clients are always extremely grateful. We get the odd complaint, and Pete tolerates that very well, but on the whole they're extremely grateful, extremely pleasant, and easy to talk to.
You can see that we have fun here at the same time. It's not just all about busyness, it's about fun. And it's about the connection we have with each other. That's really, really important. And the clients. Well, actually, that's number one. Forgot that. No,
well, we like to think we're the A-team, but I think every day thinks they're the A-team. But there are people who volunteer much, much more than I do, I have to say. Some people come 3 or 4 days a week even. And but most of them actually do say that Wednesday's the A-team. We like to think we are.
It really used to tear at my heartstrings when they'd come up and thank us, and I think what really got to me was, you know, my nan used to make that for me, and it just was like my nan's meals and things like that. To give them sustenance, but to give them a fond memory of what their life had been. That was the biggest reward ever. And I think the hardest time I ever had was when children had to come in with their parents and use our service because, you know, they were doing it really tough.
In March, Domain's vacancy rate report showed that Adelaide has the lowest housing vacancy rate in the country at 0.3%, further pushing people into housing stress and ultimately homelessness.
I was one day feeling very suicidal, very hungry. I'd not eaten for a couple of days, and my friend invited me to come round. With that, which is now from 2021 till now, I have been coming here for lunch.
Well, it's a sad indictment on our society, isn't it? That the demand has increased and it's outstripped the population growth. You know, we would have hoped that in 70 years we could have ended homelessness, and that, in an ideal world you would hope that, but that hasn't happened, and that's a sad indictment on our society that homelessness is still a prevalent issue. What is sadder is that we struggle so much just to get support from governments and donors, because homelessness is not sexy. It's not something that people necessarily think of every day. But it is. It's an important part of our society. It's there. And any one of us, any member of our society could be homeless tomorrow. It just takes one bad circumstance, one wrong decision that can lead down that horrible pathway that is homelessness. And then thank God there's places like a Hutt St Centre here in Adelaide to support the South Australians who need it.
My background was totally different than what it is now. Back in 2019 and prior, I was a family person. I had my own house, my own family, my own businesses. Unfortunately, things went downhill for me and I became where I am now.
There was one client, she was being abused by her partner, who was also a client here. And she would come to the door every day, and the sister who worked here at the time would help her out with food, and so she'd come in and we'd have a chat, and she happened to be Italian. So we built a bit of a bond. She stayed with this person who was being quite violent, and eventually she died because of that. And I went to her funeral, and her story was amazing, and I'll never forget what she told me. So, and it's really a journey that all of us have to go through, and so some people just have it tougher than others. So she's someone I'll never forget. I still have her little card at home at a funeral. Yeah.
Having to take a client to the hospital myself, who turned up here with cuts and abrasions, very deep cuts and abrasions to his head, who had been smashed in a fight and had beer bottles smashed over him, to take him into the RA and get his head stitched and stapled, and to listen to his story of where he had come from. He had come from a military family where his father was a minister and a pastor, and to listen to his story and to listen how he ended up in the military and then lost his way and hadn't talked to his family, was too embarrassed to talk to his family, to put him back together again and to bring him back, and then to initiate a reunion with his family back in Queensland was another wonderful moment. And you know, there are many, many of those moments.
I think Daughters of Charity, our primary call is to be with those who are somewhat marginalised in society, the disadvantaged. those experiencing poverty in all the different forms, social, emotional, financial, obviously, but also spiritual poverty. And, you know, I don't think that's changed. In fact, maybe the needs are greater. And so daughters remain because there's still a need, and the need is increasing. And there are so many people in our community for whom life is really tough.
It helps a lot of people. It's good to come back to a place like this and know you've got help.
You can get on with your day. You can be a new person walking out of the Hutt St Centre. I'm always amazed at how somebody could look one moment so bedraggled and then all of a sudden shave, and they're a totally new person when they walk out that door.
I couldn't speak highly enough about it. For me, it was a blessing. For me, it was destiny. For me, it was, you know, I don't say God very often, but sort of like God sent. I was put in the right place at the right time with the right person to get the job done. And something must have been looking out for me.
We could not survive much without the support of Hutt St Centre. To me, they mean a lot to me. They mean so much for me. And I appreciate them every day. I think I make a prayer out of them every day if I can. All I can say is thank you.